Hi everybody. In Module 3, we've been exploring nonprofits from a more theoretical and philosophical angle. The idea of having a theory about nonprofit organizations seems like a scholastic exercise at best, but in reality, having a theory helps us ask better questions about the ultimate aim for nonprofit organizations within a democratic society. Questions like, how do nonprofits help produce better citizens? Or what is the relationship between nonprofits and government in their vision for the people? Are ones that get to the core of why we even have nonprofits in the first place. If we go back a few hundred years to the founding of the American Republic, we see glimpses of these ideas in action. Alexis de Tocqueville, a French statesman, visited this new land, America, and was impressed by his observations. He specifically noted this concept of people willingly working together beyond the governmental sphere to solve some of the country's pressing needs. These voluntary associations became the foundation for this concept of having what he termed as an engaged citizenry. And in his mind, citizens who are engaged with their democracy and their community is the engine that drives social change. In looking at the big picture of nonprofits and how they contribute to society, it's helpful to first explore how they function in a society. Using the lens of political science, nonprofits help accommodate the diversity of ideas and people such that everyone gets a voice. This is seen in the types of nonprofit organizations that focus on political advocacy, political support, and giving everyone in the society a voice for change. One example of this is a nonprofit organization in Seattle called One America, whose efforts help raise the voice of immigrants in the United States. Nonprofits also create programs and do research which may later become scaled up and even incorporated into larger government efforts. Early on in their history, being small has its advantages, as the organization can respond quickly to needs that may arise. I think of the many government efforts in affordable housing and social services that started out as small nonprofit organizations. Nonprofits also undertake research and development efforts that prove to be integral in larger efforts. The Fred Hutchinson Cancer Research Center in Seattle is a great example of this. A different lens by which to view nonprofit organizations comes through what the Worth book terms as failure theories. Concepts of free market, economic efficiency, and the production of goods seem better suited to an economics class rather than nonprofits. Yet, when viewed through an economics lens, nonprofits can and have filled this gap between what governments and even the marketplace can do. This gives rise to the term the third sector, in which nonprofits can act as agents of change in ways that governments and even businesses cannot do. Nonprofits are generally less restrained by their bureaucracies and can act with conviction, purpose, innovation, and even efficiency in ways other entities cannot. Interestingly, the idea of marketplace and social change has taken on even greater prominence today with the rise of what is termed social entrepreneurship. Social entrepreneurship refers to this idea that the ideas of the marketplace and entrepreneurship can be leveraged for social good. The book mentions an organization called the Ashoka Foundation, which supports the efforts of social entrepreneurs. Another great resource that is more on the academic side is the Stanford Social Innovation Review, which is devoted to research on social transformation. All this comes down to asking, what drives people to even be involved in the industry in the first place? Are such motivations truly altruistic? Is there some sense of self-interest to all this? Well, the research has explored these questions, and the answer is that it is a little of both, and that personal values and ethics do come into play at some point, but consider these questions, perhaps they're better described as the meta questions nonprofit organizations ask in the first place. What is common good, and how do we define it? How is common good different from what we think of goods and services? When a group says they benefit all, who is the all? And who gets to say who all is? Obviously, there's no easy answer to any of these questions, but the point here is that nonprofits are on the front line of that conversation. This is just as diverse, the how is just as diverse as the areas they work in. I hope you've also enjoyed reading the Drucker book. This module's reading emphasizes the importance of mission in a nonprofit organization. I love the quote that he shares, which says, "The first task of a leader is to make sure that everybody sees the mission, hears it, and lives it." With that, he goes on by saying that in nonprofits, everyone is a leader because everyone does something. Throughout these first three modules, we've emphasized more of the foundational and even historical features of nonprofits, and I trust you've asked questions about what does leadership have to do with all of it. Next week, we'll start turning our attention to more practical matters and explore nonprofit governance, structure, and the areas leaders specifically need to address. We'll begin with exploring boards, staff, and volunteers. We'll evaluate their role and just how critical they are to the organization, and talk a little bit about what are the best ways to recruit, engage, and manage them. At the end of the week, you will also be submitting your first assignment, the paper on characteristics of nonprofit organizations. A lot of concepts from these first three modules will help you in that paper, so be sure to incorporate these into that assignment. I'll discuss the assignment in further detail in the preview announcement for the next module, but nonetheless, for now, let's continue our conversation through the weekend on the discussion board, and have a great weekend from there. I will see you all online.